Hey there, it's Amy McGrady, your premier real estateologist. Today, I'm taking you on a little dive as to whether or not it's better to live in California or Fort Lauderdale, or maybe just Florida. You know, my jam is South Florida, so I'm going to compare. It's going to be a lot of, from the research I've done and from the experiences I've had, Southern California and South Florida. So let's compare the two and see which one you like better. So let's talk about lifestyle and vibe first. Now we know that California's vibe is from the ocean to the mountains. I mean, you can be swimming on the beach in the morning and skiing in the mountains in the afternoon or the next day. You can't do that. There is no snow skiing in Florida ever. Water skiing, so you can be in the ocean water skiing anytime. But really, those are the two different vibes, right? So you've got the where the mountains meet the ocean in California, without a doubt. It is gorgeous and a gorgeous lifestyle. And then you've got Florida, which is where the ocean and the water is everywhere. So I think it's kind of a more chill vibe, like in Florida than California. It's a different chill vibe, right? So Florida, it's like, we don't care what you're driving, man. You know what I mean? I kind of get the sense, like in LA, you know, it matters if you're in the Ferrari or the Maserati or the Mercedes or whatever. Now, it matters if you're driving all those here too, but it just matters for different reasons. And whether or not people look at you, or whether you want people to look at you because of the car you drive. I don't know. It's just a little different vibe there. And man, I see people in Lululemon all over the place in LA. Not so much in South Florida, except maybe South Beach. Not so much in Northern California. I love Northern California as well. Totally different vibe from Southern California. But you still have that ocean and the mountains. And if you can't give that combination up, stay in Cali, man, because we are just never going to have mountains here. The only mountains we have are called Mount Trashmore, and those are dumps, and they don't smell that good. So that's kind of the biggest difference. You know what I mean? Like in California, the yoga mats come with kale juice, and in Florida, the yoga mats come with mojitos or margaritas. That kind of sums up the different vibes, right? And lifestyles. Summary, the differences between the lifestyles and the vibes are like you got the mountains meet the ocean in California, and in Florida, you've got the ocean meets your backyard. That's really a big difference, because in California, those waterfront properties are not as user-friendly, in my opinion, as they are in Florida. We have a lot of canals that come off of the ocean where there's a lot of houses built. So there's a lot of people who have their boat in their backyard, including me, and I wouldn't give it up for the world. And that's really hard to do in California because that Pacific Ocean is just big and badass and rough, and it's cold. So another reason it's not user-friendly to me. So if you want that warm water and you want that boat in your backyard, Florida wins the ticket. If you want the ocean and the mountains and the hiking trails, then California is for you. The cost of living is pretty high in South Florida. A lot of people complain about it all the time, but the cost of living is super high in California, in my opinion. The state income tax, California, up to 13.3% is what I got. You guys have state income tax. Florida state income tax, 0. So that's a pretty big benefit for people that live here and people that run businesses here. Gasoline costs, the average gasoline cost in 2025, the end of the year, fourth quarter 2025, California, about $5.90 a gallon. In Florida, about $3.30 a gallon. That's a pretty big difference too, especially if you use gasoline, which in both places, you need your car. We'll get into traffic later. Median home prices in California, Fourth quarter 2025, 860,000. Florida, about 500,000. That's median home prices. Property taxes, California, about 1.25%, under 1% in Florida. So, in all of those pretty big categories, taxes and gas and food prices too, they're less money in Florida. So, cost of living is a positive side for Florida and negative side for California. Sorry, my peoples. So, in South Florida, you keep more of what you earn. No state income tax, lower property taxes, and no extra cost to breathe the air. And for the same $1 million in California, it's my understanding you can buy maybe a 1,400 square foot home. And in Florida, South Florida, for $1 million, you can buy a waterfront home. Now, of course, they're going to go up from there, but if you see some of the other videos I've done, Gill Isles, Riverside Park, Sailboat Bend, you can get some beautiful, user-friendly, ocean access properties for $1 million, give or take a couple $100,000 on either side, depending upon how fabulous the house has been renovated. California, you ain't going to find that. You're just not going to find it. Now, you can also find houses on the Intracoastal in Fort Lauderdale and Miami, and on the Miami Biscayne Bay for multi-millions, up to $50 million in South Florida, with extreme privacy, lots of land, and all of that. But basically, your waterfront properties down here are going to run you between $900,000 for a tear down, basically, to $50 million. California, I mean, you're starting in the tens of millions of dollars if you're going to be on the water. Where can you keep your boat other than a marina? Can you keep your boat in your backyard in California? If you can, and you know where that is, please hit me up in the comments and let me know. Hey, and while I'm taking that little commercial break, if you would subscribe to my channel, I would be very grateful. Okay, so then the other thing to compare between South Florida and California is the weather. So we know that both places have gorgeous palm trees, gorgeous trees of any kind, gorgeous weather. I mean, that's Southern California weather from San Diego to LA to San Francisco is amazing all year round, in my opinion. In Florida, it's more hot, so be ready for that. We get some amazing weather maybe 3 or 4 months a year. The rest of the year, it is hot, as we say. So that's the big difference there, the weather. We both have fabulous weather, but Florida's a lot hotter and California is a lot more temperate. The big thing is, let's talk about the bad weather in both places. California, you've got earthquakes and you've got fires. That kind of scares me because I don't know when those are coming. In Florida, we have hurricanes. We get at least 2 weeks notice on those. And we have rain that will just come out of the blue in a moment. Probably looks like we may have some coming in any minute here as I speak to you. So that's kind of annoying sometimes, but not for the trees, not for the grass. I mean, the earth needs rain. The earth needs fire to purge it out. We need windstorms to purge out the foliage and all of the things. It's all there for a reason, but if we're going to be living somewhere, we need to pick what risks we're going to take. The part that I'd like to get into on Florida versus California are the jobs, the business, and the taxes. So in 2025, we saw a massive migration of businesses, especially in the tech industry, come to South Florida, Miami, and some of Fort Lauderdale. It's tech, finance, and logistics that moved to Florida. Logistics, I thought, was kind of weird when I read about that, but it makes sense because Florida's way down at the bottom. Why would you have like a delivery center or a warehousing way down at the bottom when you're servicing the whole other rest of the U.S.? However, Florida services South America, huge. So it makes sense because it's actually very close to South America, who buys a lot of our goods. So logistics is here, Amazon, all the big players, the tech industry. There's a lot of startups here. There's a great tech hub in Wynwood, part of Miami. So check that out. If you're in the tech industry, look into Wynwood and the design district in Miami. That's where you're going to catch the vibe that you need in business. Companies like Citadel, Blackstone, and small startups are relocating to South Florida. It's not about saving money, it's about lifestyle with leverage, right? So, and also, if you're a remote worker, here's the pro tip why it might be better to live in Florida. If I'm working remote, I might as well be working from my home office in my 2,000 square foot home instead of my 1,400 square foot home in California that cost me half as much money. And don't forget, I'm just comparing Florida and California. I know that there are a lot of other places where you can work from your home office for really cheap. In the middle of the country, in the Northeast where it's colder, but if you want to have the weather that we have in these two fabulous states, Florida gets you more bang for your buck if you're a remote worker, if you work from home. Okay, let's see. Real estate reality. Let's talk about real estate. We all know that California has iconic architecture. It can't even be touched in Florida. From the Spanish influence to the gold rush influence in Northern California to the cabin vibe in Northern California. It's just all over the map in California. The whole state of California, everything in San Diego just blows my mind. I love California for its architecture, diverse architecture. In Florida, we have fabulous architecture too. But don't forget, people really didn't settle in Florida too much before air conditioning. It's hot. That's when we saw the boom come. When Henry Flagler came and laid the railroad, when the automobile was a thing, and when air conditioning came. That's when Florida boomed. California boomed way before that because the weather was more tolerable. So comparing the architecture, California is the winner, if you ask me. We're trying to catch up here in Florida, but California is still the winner, in my humble opinion, as far as architecture is concerned. Now, here's the other thing. If you're thinking of investing in Florida versus investing in California, I think that the landlord-tenant statutes favor landlords way more than California. I've heard some horror stories about California, what it takes to evict a tenant that's either not paying rent or not acting right. They even made a movie about it, didn't they? What was the name of that movie? If you know, put it in the comments. Anyway, but in Florida, it's pretty easy to get a tenant out. It's not like easy, but it takes approximately a month to get them out if you do everything right. So the landlord-tenant statute is very clear. You just follow it and you'll get them out. For instance, in Florida, if you want to evict a tenant, well, if for non-payment of rent, let's say, you'll give them a 3-day notice to either pay rent or move out. That's 3 days, excluding Saturday, Sundays, legal holidays. And if they don't pay you or move out by that 4th day, then you file a lawsuit against them just for eviction. They have 5 days to answer the summons once they get served. And if they don't file an answer, a default judgment gets entered against them. And that happens within 30 days, really. I know this because I used to practice law and evict tenants as part of my bread and butter. If the tenant does file a response within 5 days but does not place the rent money in the court registry, default judgment, baby. Only way a tenant gets a hearing, unless you have a very liberal judge, and there's a lot of exceptions to it, but the statute provides the only way a tenant will get a hearing is if they file an answer with the court within the 5 days and put the rent money that's owed up into the court registry so that when the judge hears the case, the judge will determine who's entitled to that money in the registry. So it's a pretty investor-friendly place, Florida. So if you love California and you want to stay in Cali, but you want to buy some multi-units and apartment buildings, Florida is an easy place to do it. And if you want to do that, don't forget, call me. I got you. It's what I do. In addition to residential real estate, I do multifamily and industrial. Now, the other thing I want to cover in this video in comparing Florida to California is the culture, the people, and the diversity. So California is the land of innovation and influencers. Tech, film, and food trends, you just set the tone for the whole rest of the country, even other parts of the world. And we thank you for that. South Florida here is where the cultures, just so many cultures, collide beautifully. You can get your Cuban coffee next to a Venezuelan arepa, next to New York bagels, and next to Brazilian steakhouses. We have a huge diversity. I know California does too, but it feels like our diversity is more kind of cultural and multi-country versus California's diversity, which is more artistic and trendy and trend setting. We don't necessarily set the trends down here. We follow yours, baby. So again, the culture, the people, and diversity, if it's important to you, then consider it all before making a move. So the next thing I want to talk about, California versus Florida, is the traffic, the transportation, and the pace. So in California, it just seems like you need a car no matter what. You can ride the buses, and I don't think the bus system is all that great there in my experience, my limited experience. It was okay, but, you know, buses are tough anyway. I'm glad I don't have to take them anymore. I did when I was younger. There's a lot of waiting in between buses to get to where you want to go if you're going any kind of distance. But in Florida, it just seems like I spent a lot of time sitting on the 405 and sitting on the 101. In Florida, a lot less time on 95 and 595. Certainly it feels like California during our rush hours, which is not just an hour, it's multiple hours. And more, though, we're getting more traffic, so we're catching up to you, California. So anyone that's thinking about buying in either Florida or California, if traffic is not a thing for you, if you can't put on an audio book or put on your music and just go with it, then neither of these states are good for you. If you're if you're thinking about coming to Florida from Cali, it's going to be much better traffic than you're used to. If you're thinking about moving from Florida to Cali, it's going to be more traffic than Florida, for sure. So the bottom line is, how do you feel where you live? That's really what you're up for. I think the vibe is great in both places, so it's up to you to decide what little palm tree infested area you want to live in. So now I'm going to summarize California versus Florida. Here we go. Both love outdoor living, but Florida wins, in my opinion, with the warm ocean water year-round. Florida waters are also more user-friendly, but the California waters are beautiful. Those cliffs and those rocks and the volcanic evidence and the mountains, beautiful. California home prices and gas prices are higher than Florida. Part of the summary. Review the comparison on those items before you make a move so that you're ready for it. So it's gas prices, home prices, taxes, your big considerations. But I'm just telling you that here in Florida, your boat might have more square footage than your apartment or your condo in California. Comparison of weather, you've got California, you have great weather, but when it's bad, you're dealing with wildfires and earthquakes. Florida, it's hot, but you get used to it. But the bad side of it are the hurricanes and the frequent rainstorms. I'll take hurricanes and rainstorms any day over earthquakes and fires. Another part of our summary is that many companies are moving their headquarters from California to Florida, so keep that in mind if you're in the tech, finance, or logistics industry. Florida's pro-business environment and remote work culture is growing fast. It's great for investors, entrepreneurs, and digital nomads. The paycheck goes further here because we don't have those state taxes coming out. And your business taxes are lower here if you're an entrepreneur. Median home price is $860,000 versus $500,000. Waterfront lifestyle and accessibility. I think you have more accessibility here and a lot more homes on the water, which is why they cost less money. Supply and demand, right? We have more of a supply of waterfront property. But the demand is there. California views cost millions. In South Florida, you can live on the water without being a professional athlete or a movie star. There's a growing relocation trend. Californians are cashing out and they're coming to Florida and they're either buying an amazing home or they're buying two homes or two properties for the price of what they sold one property for in California. So it's a good switch, a good shift for California people. California is more tech-driven, hustle culture, and eco-conscious than Florida. And Florida is more multicultural, vibrant, open, fun, with a blend of Caribbean, Latin, and coastal energy. So it's definitely a different vibe. Fabulous live music, especially in Miami. It's a good scene. Let's see, in LA, everyone's an actor. In Fort Lauderdale, everyone's a boat captain. Like that one? Both states are amazing, but if you want sunshine, waterfront living, and to keep more of your paycheck, South Florida's calling your name. And hey, if you're thinking about relocating from California to Florida, give me a call, give me a text, hit me up on WhatsApp. I'm happy to help you find the property that suits your needs, whether it's a home, a condo, a commercial property for you to move your business here. I'm your girl. So that really concludes our comparison of California to South Florida. So this is brought to you by me, Amy, the real estateologist, real estate attorney for 30 years. Now I'm out of the office into the streets, hoping to get you the best deal in Florida. So if you have any interest in moving to Florida, give me a call, hit me up on whatever method you're comfortable with, and I'm happy to help you navigate the Florida real estate market. I thank you for your time, and I bid you adieu and tell you deuces.